Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Monitor Everything. The company in question is early on in its IT security maturity. They are taking steps and making progress, but it's still early days. To help speed this along, they got someone who claims to be a security expert, known from here on as Boss. Boss has an entry-level security qualification, but talks about it as if it's a doctorate awarded by Hogwarts School of Hacking and Wizardry or something. Boss has suggested that I get a bit more experience and then maybe go for it. It's an arduous course. My lowest level qualification is generally accepted in the community to be attempted roughly after 5 years of experience beyond this aforementioned arduous qualification. I'm a red team guy, which means my job is to simulate attacks in order to test the company's security. It's where I have experience and qualifications and what I know. Blue team, the defenders, is not my strong suit. But I have a relatively good knowledge of their role for someone who doesn't do it, because I need to know how to not alert them when I'm doing my job. For this scenario though, I was tasked with helping set up the Security Operations Center and provide alerting. We get the system set up and ready, and it comes time to set up alerts. In a meeting with Boss, I asked for a honeypot account to be created, so that we could monitor it for specific events. You don't need that, just monitor for it. That's how we would do it. Create an account with an unused SVN and monitor for a ticket being requested for that. Don't need it. Monitor all accounts. But there would be... Boss, cut me off. All accounts. We need to monitor everything. You are the boss. Part of the original request was to set up alerts to email a huge group of people when an alert was created. I decided to ignore that part of the request for testing and just email the boss. I set up an email alert for every event and turned it on for 2 minutes. Shortly after, I had this interaction. I've just had a load of email alerts come in. About 1500? I guess. My inbox is flooded. Well, it's alerting. The alerts are now only generated for events on a honeypot account. I guess this wasn't covered in his course. The next story is called Don't Know That Person. A few years ago, I worked outbound debt collection for a phone company. It's one of the few jobs I would never do again, as making the same call a few hundred times a shift was soul destroying. But hey, it paid the bills when I was between things I actually wanted to do. Early on in this call, I had to establish who I was talking to and ask some simple security questions before I went into why I was calling, and tried to extract at least some of their overdue bill from them. Something that happened at least once a week, if not more often, was someone would answer and tell me they had no idea who I was calling about, i.e. they didn't know the person named on the contract. The process that we had to comply with if they were adamant they didn't know the person on the contract was to mark their line as potentially stolen. We would block all calls, texts and data, so that the only number they went through to was customer services. There they had to go through a much more rigorous identification process and then probably pay off their debt to have their line unblocked. If they failed that, they had to go into a store, which several did, with a photo ID to get it sorted. The best part, for us, was that anything they paid within a certain time of talking to us went towards our targets. So invariably, we got a chunk of value counted, as they wanted their phone to work again. The third story is called An Evil Plan. My dad does food delivery service in his leisure time. He said he likes the community among the riders. All riders? Motorcycle is really preferred for traffic around the town, provided with a helmet and a jacket that match the company logo color, plus some details on them. Delivery to hotels is common, as our town is one of the favorite tourist destinations in the country. Traffic could be really a thing, especially during the holidays, while people craving for local cuisine but don't really want to deal with it. One day, Dad got an order to deliver to a Marriott hotel. He was told by security to leave the jacket behind before entering the lobby, and while waiting for the guests to come for their food there. He argued about leaving the jacket behind is worrying, as the motorcycle parking area is quite in the open, so the security told him to leave it in the concierge. This annoyed him, but he complied anyway. He gathered from the other riders that the same security guy has been asking them the same, and sometimes with a condescending tone. Dad came up with a little evil plan. This security guy mostly works on the day shift, so when he got another order to Marriott during the day, Dad took off his shirt and left it in its bike container under the seat and wore nothing under the jacket. He walked towards the lobby, glancing at the security who stood there with a smug face, and headed towards the concierge. He took off his jacket and sat pretty on the couch in the lobby, while the receptionist looked at him with horror. The receptionist was half screaming while she rushed towards him. "What are you even doing?" "I'm waiting for the customer, boss." "Bare-chested? Where's your shirt?" "It's a hot day, boss. I ride around the town with only my jacket on. And no delivery jackets are allowed in the lobby." "No? Your colleague, that security guy, told me so." Just leave the food with me and please put your jacket back on." "Thank you." The security guy realized the situation a bit late and could only watch the whole exchange with his jaw dropped. The next time my dad gets an order for Marriott, the same guy just told him to leave it with him. The last story is called I Win. Years ago, I was a cook at a well-known fast casual restaurant, known for its giant burritos and charging extra for guacamole. I worked hard because the place was very understaffed given the number of customers that came in. Management understood when we had to cut corners to ensure people did not wait for food. One of the rules we had to follow before cooking the rice was to rinse the raw rice 3 times until the water runs clear. Vague? I know. How clear is clear? What if, after 3 rinses, the water is not clear? 3 times and runs clear? Or 3 times or runs clear? Who knows? I did not ask. Most of the time we would give the rice 1 or 2 rinses before throwing it into the cooker. Never had any problems with the customers complaining about it, and we never ran out of rice. Since there were never any problems, management did not care. Everyone was happy. That is until one day Miss Manager decides it is time to enforce every single rule exactly. Not sure why. To get to the position she was in, she knew how to do all the individual tasks in the kitchen, so she knew the rules. However, she did not know how to conduct the symphony of the dozens of simultaneous tasks at the speed and accuracy required to keep customers moving and never burn anything. I did. She did not know which corners were okay to cut and which ones were not. I did. As I was getting ready for the busy shift, the kitchen was not in busy mode yet. I am rinsing rice and Miss Manager approaches me. "Make sure to rinse the rice until the water runs clear." I look at her and respond, "I always do." She knew I was lying, but she knew why. She knew that it would take longer to make the rice. But I was the only one who could make sure that rice never runs out. Her life would be hell if we ran out of rice. She had a chance to let it go. She did not though. "Mr. Cook, I know you don't follow that rule. Keep rinsing the rice until the water runs clear. And before you put this rice on the cooker, come find me and show me that it runs clear." I looked at her with a straight face and replied, "Keep rinsing the rice until the water runs clear?" "Got it." I begin. Fill the pot of rice with water, agitate the rice, pull out the perforated part of the pot and dump out all of the cloudy water. After 3 times, the water still resembles water skim milk. I look up. She is watching me. She asked, "Does that water look clear to you?" It was rhetorical. I see how it is. I start rinsing again. Satisfied, she walks away. I continue repeating the process. A while goes by. And yes, I'm counting the number of times. The long grains of rice are breaking apart, and the entire pot is turning into a strange mushy mixture of white rice. Given the time I'm taking on this dumb task, everything else that needs to get started in the kitchen is falling behind. Finally, Miss Manager appears in the kitchen again. "You are still rinsing rice?" The timing was perfect. I dump out the water in front of her and asked, "Does that water look clear to you?" As I dump out the precursor to slightly water down horchata, she softly says, "No." I step away from the sink. "How many times do you think I've rinsed this rice? 7? No, try 37. I wasn't joking. I've rinsed this rice 37 times, and the water is not running clear to your satisfaction. Should I continue?" She looks at the rice, knows it's unusable, and yet she has lost the fight. On the one hand, she cannot tell me to keep going, because the ground up rice was only a few rinses and a cook away from becoming grits. On the other hand, she cannot tell me to stop rinsing, because then she would be in violation of the sacred rice rinsing commandment. Additionally, she cannot fire me, otherwise the store could not open. She scheduled me to work the entire day, and she sure knows that she could not do what I do in the kitchen. Fine, Kiwi lands. Get back in there and make sure we are ready when it's time to open. I laughed to myself as I went back to work. I win. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.